Just thought I'd make a quick review. This is the Elite Force TAR 21, or IWR Tavor 21. This has actually been licensed by Israeli Weapons Industries. So you can see right there, it says Tavor 21, 5.56mm, Israel Weapon Industries. Sorry about that. Very nice, solid platform. Especially good for assault players such as myself. I like this particularly because of its high rate of fire when compared to other assault weapons for airsoft. This particular weapon, in my opinion, fires a little bit slower than my... Sorry, something catching my throat. Where was I? Anyways, this weapon fires a little bit slower, in my opinion, than the Bushmaster Carbon 15. Which, for an airsoft licensed rifle, is not that bad. One attribute to this is basically, if I remember correctly, an M4 just in bullpup form. It's pretty much got a full-sized M4 barrel for airsoft. All the action is back here. It's all just kind of been extended. Safety, semi-auto, full, which this thing sounds aggressive when it fires. Trigger pull is very smooth. In my opinion, I mean, you know, I'm a smaller guy. My hands ain't as big as some people's, you know, just saying. This pistol grip is not very comfortable for me to handle after a while. It's not, especially with gloves on. It becomes slightly painful right around here in my hand when gripping it. Now, obviously, I'm righty, but, you know, that works. As stated before, it is slower rate of fire than the Bushmaster Carbon 15 airsoft rifle. However, it more than makes up for it in accuracy and range. The Bushmaster Carbon 15 that I compared this to, I had for a couple of months, up to a year, of being in the sport of airsoft. And at stock, the Carbon 15 was getting about 330 feet per second with .20 biodegradable BBs. And of course, it's a CQB style rifle, and when I compared the lengths of this rifle compared to the Carbon 15, it was actually about 2 to 3 inches shorter than this. Now, of course, I'm talking about the Carbon 15. Now, it's designed for CQB. This is just basically a Tavor 21. This is basically just what it is. So it's going to be pretty much in the ballpark of CQB. And I've tried this in CQB and it does fairly well. It's not too terribly back heavy. I mean, if you have a full 300 round high cap in the back or a 450 round high cap, which they do make those, it does get a little bit back heavy. But I haven't really noticed this as an issue. In other bullpup designs, I did. A friend of mine had a full metal FAMAS, and anytime you slap that 300 high cap in the back, it was horrendously heavy. It felt like a horrible weight distribution. It was just absolutely shitty. Now this feels pretty well balanced. This is all constructed of durable ABS plastic. And I believe it. This stuff is pretty durable. I'm impressed with this. This is not the most expensive rifle out there, and it holds its own for durability. I mean, I've dropped this thing a couple times since I got it, and it's pretty much held up to it all. Very impressive little rifle. Now, obviously, getting this kind of rifle, you would probably be better off with running like a 9.6 volt LiPo. I don't really have any LiPos because I'm too cheap to go on like Airsoft GI or E-Vike to get them, but I'll usually run something that works pretty good. I'll use the nickel metal hydrides that come with it. This is the original battery that came with it. This is an 8.4 volt, 1100 milliamp hour nickel metal hydride. This lasts pretty good. Never really cared. One nice attribute about this, and that's the nice thing about this gun, is where the battery is stored. Now, on the Carbon 15, you have to take the whole front quad rail off, just so you can get access to the batteries. And they're not like nunchucks. They're just, you know, like, you'll have like 3 cells, and then there'll be a line, like a negative cable or ground connected to like another 2, and like another 2, and then it just kind of wraps around the handguard. It's really weird, and it takes like 10 minutes to put on. And that sucks if your battery dies and you're in the middle of combat and you're trying to change out your battery, and you can only use that type of battery. This just comes right off. And there's a little battery compartment in there. Now, obviously, I'm not using the same battery as that. I'm using something similar, but a little bit better, in my opinion. This is also an 8.4 volt battery, but it's 1600 milliamp hour versus 1100. So this is going to last a little bit longer. That's why I like using this. I've used this mainly in this rig, and it runs pretty damn good. I'm impressed with this battery. Anyways, storage space for the battery. Very, very nice. Very, very easy to get to. Kind of hard to see down there. It's unloaded, of course. I checked multiple times before I actually brought it up on here for the tabletop review. Nice battery compartment. Very, very, very easy to access. Now, when I did run an older battery and it ran out, the first day I got this, I took it over to a place down in Hobart, Indiana called Blast Camp. They do paintball and airsoft. It was my first time ever running a bullpup platform. It was my first time ever running this rifle in an assault platform, and it did admirably after I wore it in a little bit. I did not use the original battery. I used an older 8.4 volt, this little tiny blue battery pack. Come on. This is basically the exact same as that black one down there. I just had it for a while and it was basically overcharged, so I figured I'd use that the whole day. I used it for the first round, which was about 2-3 hours or so. The rounds last a really damn long time on that place, and then it ran out in the middle of me shooting at some guys in a fort area. So I had to switch out for this. And it did even better. Very impressed. Very, very easy to get the batteries in and out. Big, big advantage over the Carbon 15. Love it just for that. Now on to FPS. I touched a little bit on that before, didn't really get into it. This gun on the box says max FPS 345 FPS. And that's pretty good. That's about 15 more than the Carbon 15 will for max FPS. That's nice. Slightly slower rate of fire with 8.4s and does, you know, better FPS, better range. That's nice. And it's accurate. I mean, I had to dial it in, but it was accurate. And of course, when we did chrono it, the FPS limit for Blast Camp for rifles like such as this, basically any sort of AR platform, was 400. That was the max you could have. They'd let you in, but, you know, it was iffy, depending on, you know, if it was like 10 or 15 above, maybe not. If it was like 5, probably. Because, you know, it's like, well, you're on the limit, basically, so whatever. And then, of course, using it all day, it pretty much, you know, makes the spring not as much actual tension, thus lower FPS. This thing, when they chronoed it, 367 on the first try, and it was consistent. Now, that would make sense because, well, it's a brand new gun. I'd like to get it chronoed again. I'm pretty sure it'll be around 350-ish. And I've put a couple thousand rounds through this since then, so it's held up. It's held its own. Really like this rifle. Touching back to awkwardness in feeling, yeah, after a while it just becomes really awkward. The weight in the back, where all the action is centered, really does start to kind of, you know, it starts to wear you out a little bit. One really, really annoying factor of this. Here is, of course, the magazine release. And one nice thing about this, it can fit standard M4 mags. Now, I happen to have a lot of high caps around, so I just use those. However, this is very, very easy to press, especially with the mag in. Just recently, I went out airsofting with some buddies. Just the other day, in fact. Had a nice 300 round high cap in, barely ever used it, and lost it out in their woods. And now it's raining. So I'll probably never find it again. Retraced my steps about 3 times, still could not find it. This is so annoying. And that's one thing where the Carbon 15 wins out over the Tar 21 in my opinion, is this. It's so easy to brush up against and have your mag fall out, and sometimes you won't even know it, just like me. You just don't notice it until it's gone. And it's like, where the hell did my mag go? Now, if you're out in the middle of an open field, well, it's kind of easy to tell. It's like, oh, there's a random high cap right there, let's grab it. But, in my opinion, I just do not like it. I wish it was a stiffer spring. It helps to have, in this case, it's nice for being ambidextrous, but it's a pain in the ass. Carbon 15, it's basically standard M4 mag release on the right-hand side, right above the trigger guard. And it's a lot harder to press, it's a lot harder to mess around with. I mean, I've even run with really floppy, loose mid-caps in my Carbon 15, and they've never fallen out randomly, like this thing does. It's just 10 times better than this in that case. Still, in my opinion, despite its slight and very, very obviously annoying drawbacks, it's a very nice rifle. One thing it has over the Carbon 15, the Carbon 15, as always, has a hop-up. And this has a hop-up too. And this is a very ambidextrous rifle. Now, here's the charging handle for that. Now watch. It locks back in place on this. It's a functioning charging handle, and it locks the hop-up slide back in place. Now that is very, very, very nice. You don't have to sit there and hold the charging handle back with one hand and like take it with your pinky or something and twist it around with the other. It's a lot nicer. And another thing that's really nice about it, functioning slide release. It's fun to just sit there and rack the charging handle for about 10 minutes and hit that slide release. I'm telling you, it's the most fun you'll ever have. Just doing that. It's probably wearing out something, but it's fun. One nice thing about it, this also has, now this is basically the same as the Carbon 15. However, these are adjustable. You can adjust the front sight for windage. You cannot adjust it for elevation as far as I can tell. But they're flip-up front and rear sights. Oh, come on. Kind of a pain in the ass to get that camera angle. That's basically pretty much what it looks like. I can't really get the right camera angle. Well, hold on. Yeah, basically like that. Very nice. Surprisingly, extremely accurate. I had a small Tasco red dot on this that I actually had on my Carbon 15 earlier. And I ran it out of battery. Somehow it just kind of got left out of my closet. I don't know who was messing with it. And so I just yanked it off, threw the iron sights up, adjusted them really quickly for windage, and off I was. And I kicked major ass with this thing, just with irons. It's basically in stock format. Really, really nice. A lot better than the Carbon 15 in my opinion, just because you can adjust them. You can only adjust for windage, but that's basically all you need to do with this particular rifle. Now, as I was talking about before, it sounds devastating. In fact, I'm going to put the front cover on. It means I'm going to pause the video. As I was saying, very devastating. Also looks very nice. Now, before I touch on the sound... touch on the sound, get it? I'm just going to say this right now. I really wish Elite Force would make some sort of a quad rail. Well, not necessarily quad rail, that kind of sounds stupid. I wish they'd make some sort of a more rounded bottom end to this that snaps in, because it's not that hard to make this. I mean, it's got to be pretty dang easy just to make the addition for a rail system. I mean, you can swap the charging handle to either side, swap the hop-up unit to either side for easier adjustments for lefties or righties. I'm pretty sure you can adjust the safety selector and put it on the other side as well. It's all very ambidextrous, but I wish they would be able to put, and actually, you know what, I think you can even put in a rail system. A small Picatinny or a Weaver rail just right here. Or right here if you're lefty. I just wish they'd be able to put some sort of a more rounded edge to dyslexia. So that way it actually looks like an MTAR. The modern, slightly scaled down version of this. I mean, this is basically just a Tavor 21. Basic. If it was the MTAR, it'd have the more rounded edge, and then you'd have a Picatinny rail on the bottom. You could put like a foregrip, or if you're weird, a bipod. It'd just be for that. Now let's touch on the sound, since it's taking so long for me to get to it. Here's what it sounds like. That's nice. Here's what full auto sounds like. Sorry for those of you who are headphones users, you're probably going to suffer. Please don't send me any lawsuits or doctor's bills. It's nice though. Now as you can see, I did vinyl tape the orange tip. That's because the guys I were playing with, they didn't really require or care whether it was orange or not. Everyone knew it was airsoft. We all had, like, you know, played with each other's gun for like 10 minutes before we played. So they didn't really give a shit. I did this, of course, in the element of stealth. I was out in the middle of basically a giant woodland forest with a bunch of trees and shit and brushes. Orange tip sticks out like a freaking sore thumb. I honestly wish we didn't have to have these, but supposedly they do help with identification in the case of, like, say you're sitting there messing around with your airsoft gun in your front yard, aiming at people's mailboxes and shit. Police come by, drop your weapon. Of course, it's airsoft, so you're like, why would I drop my airsoft gun? And then they see the orange tip. It's like, okay, drop the airsoft gun instead of thinking it's a real gun and shooting you. And then, well, many tears and stupid shit. Anyways, I like this rifle. It's good. Basically, some things I don't like. Stiffer spring, Elite Force. And I wish they'd be able to put some sort of a rail on the bottom of this, but whatever. Pretty sure you can add one on there. There's like a little hole right there. You could probably add one on. I might try that soon. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Leave a like, comment, rating, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you hate it. Tell me why. I need input. Input. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.